Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be interviewing Amalia Crevani, who is a student at DePauw University in Indiana, and where she studies vocal performance and theater. And she's talented in both of these areas, but today I'm going to be interviewing her about what it's like to be a singer and what it's like to study music in college. And then at the end of the video, we will be discussing a piece she'll be performing for us called the Shadow Song from the opera Dinorah. And after that, she will be singing it for us. So without further ado, let's begin. So Amalia, could you just offer us a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Amalia. You said most of it. I mean, I go to school in Indiana. I study music. That's what I do. It's what I love. And I'm from New Jersey, and it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to the interview. So the first question, when did you first become interested in singing and music?
I really love music from a young age. It was always around with since my father's a musician, and it was always just a joy of mine. But it wasn't until I was a little older when it was something that just kind of lingered a little bit more, and I was still really interested in it, and my parents couldn't get me to stop singing. It wasn't until then that they realized that maybe this is something that they could help me pursue, and so then I started taking lessons, and it took off.
Great. And when did you become interested in opera?
I started singing. I didn't start singing classical music until I was in late middle school, and when I first started exploring classical repertoire. That wasn't until late, like eighth grade, beginning of high school, but then I really delved into it halfway through, my high school years, and continued ever since.
Great. And so how prevalent would you say music and singing was in your life before college?
It was always around. It was whether it was my dad playing Bach on cassettes in the car rides, or going to my father's band concerts, or listening just to music, or me writing songs with little knowledge that I had. It was always around, or singing from memory the sound of music at a young age, just on repeat. It was always around, and then it just kind of developed into a more mature sort of study, and then when I got to college, it was just like, this is really buckling in and really focusing.
Yeah, so yeah, it sounds like you took an interest in music and singing from like a really young age and was always present. And so yeah, could you give us a background on like your training and experiences such as like concerts and performances that you had?
Absolutely. So to begin with training, I started training in voice around third grade, and then mainly in musical theater, and doing some classical, just exploring it, touching it, dipping my toe in. But then started training late, like I said before, in late early high school. Um, and I think my first big opportunity I remember was, well, actually, I think it was for classical music. I sang with the 100 Symphony Orchestra, which
Oh
is a
wow.
local symphony orchestra in the area, and it was a really exciting experience getting to do. We did the cat duet, Rossini's cat duet, and then they did Peter and the Wolf. Um, it was a really amazing experience to be a part of, and that I remember specifically, that one was a really awesome experience. And then I guess moving forward, I guess I mean, apart from like involvement in high school things, such as musicals and concerts and things, I started to kind of take my own path and try to compete in competitions, um, and then I auditioned for the Juilliard Pre-College, and through that, more opportunities for competitions and performances and concerts and all sorts of things like that started to emerge. And the similar track has gone through college. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's really incredible. So, yeah, you mentioned that you attended Juilliard Pre-College. What do you say your experience at that was like?
It was so cool.
Yeah.
To be surrounded, I'm just being honest, to be surrounded by such talent and such motivated people, and it's just inspiring. And in a place that fosters art and music, and to be in a place where just the people around you are just oozing with skill is just really something that just like is so inspiring. So and apart from that, the opportunities, the amazing people that you meet, the how much I learned, it was a real huge growing experience, and as a musician, as a person. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it it sounds so wonderful. Like, and especially since like you're in the heart of culture and everything like that, you're just surrounded with so much talent. It sounds really amazing. So, I can imagine Juilliard had a big impact on you as a musician, and probably like, your father, like you said before. What would you say like impacted you the most in your life as a musician? Who or what?
I would have to say definitely my family and the opportunities that they've in how much they were willing to and able to sacrifice for me, and even to just support me, because music is something it's different from a lot of other professions. So having parents that are supportive of that and willing to allow that to foster that and to let it grow was I wouldn't be anywhere without them. So thank you. um, and also, I have to say, I mean, along the lines of pre-college, I would have to say too, more generally speaking, my teachers, whether that's a musicianship teacher or the composition teacher, they're the people that stuck. Especially my voice teachers are the ones that really, and coaches are the ones that really, and still stand out and make an impact on my life. So yeah.
That was a great answer. Thank you so much. And so, who was who was your favorite classical or opera singer from whom you like to take inspiration the most? Or is
This is
that,
so hard.
yeah, that would, I can imagine that's pretty hard to answer, but do you have like one of your favorites or?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick, I could say right now in particular, I've been okay. Can I say three? Is
Yeah.
that okay? I'll um, okay, so I have to say Maria Callas. I'm sorry, she's just fabulous, fabulous. Don't need to say anymore. I would say that the other person that I really have been looking to for inspiration is Anna Moffo, and she's a soprano from I guess the previous century, and she did a lot of coloratura, and so also being in a similar voice part has been something that is listening to what she's done, and like I just look up to everything that she's done as inspiration. So I guess she's mainly it.
Yeah, that's great. The second, the next question is similar in a way. Who are your favorite composers?
Okay, this one might be even longer answer. Um, my favorite composer. All right, my longtime favorite composer is Edvard Grieg. Um, I love his stuff. He's a quirky composer. Um, I just like how his music. There's so much like romanticism, but then just has like this flavor that's just Grieg. That I guess every composer has that, but I just
Yeah.
really love his music. I also am a huge fan of Debussy and Ravel, and lately I've been listening to a lot of Liszt and Tchaikovsky. But I don't know, it's hard to pick for
Yeah,
vocal
there's like
composer. it's like there's so many, and for like vocal, it's either vocal, instrumental, both. There's Bellini, there's Verdi. It's like Puccini. I don't know, so many.
You could just like be naming them for days, and then you wouldn't even be finished with like, there would still be many more talented composers out there.
Philip Glass, like I don't even know, like where do I stop?
Yeah. So apart from classical voice and like classical music in general, maybe, what other genres of singing and music do you enjoy listening to?
I love listening to pop. I like jazz. I love listening to old jazz standards and the great jazz singers. Um, I like alternative rock, R&B, a little bit of rap. I don't really like country that much, folk. But yeah, I just love music. It's cool. That's about it.
Awesome. So, yeah, the next portion of this interview, I'll be talking about what it's like for you to study music in college. And so, the first question is, when did you decide that you wanted to study music in college?
Yeah, so I think there were actually 2 times. So going into high school, I had my mind set that I wanted to go to a school, because I also was an athlete. I wanted to go to a school where I could play soccer, I could study astrophysics, and I could study music. And in the span of a couple years, that changed completely, but I still wanted to study music. And I think when I was really set on it was like really solid that I knew I was going to study music was my junior year. I'd been studying abroad, studying music abroad, and everything just kind of clicked, and I knew I just had this like epiphany moment that I'm not going to have to get into, but I just knew I was like, this is something I love so much, and I have to do it. I want to do it, and I have to do it. So
that's a really awesome story. So, like, for other people out there who might be in your shoes, who who always had music in their lives and they're not like sure about what they want to do, that's like always something they can. Yeah, exactly. So the next question is, what was your average day like in college before coronavirus, of course?
Yeah. I mean, it varies year to year, but essentially going off of my last semester, before all the changes went into place, my day started pretty early. I would get up at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, get ready, start my day, and then have classes, usually starting at 8. And then basically classes all day with little breaks in between to just breathe, study, do homework, have coachings, lessons, and just class all day, have lunch, more classes, and through the evening. And especially as a music student, class, it's different for a lot of, especially at universities, it's different than a lot of other people because you have ensembles. Whether if you're instrumental, you have all your chamber ensembles and orchestras and band and everything. And for vocalists, you have your choirs, you have coachings, you have all these different kinds of things. And then you have rehearsals for productions that are going on. So that would always vary whether it was like a musical or an opera or just a play. And so that would go on so all day and then into rehearsal, and then eventually you'd eat dinner. and then after that it's just kind of homework, interact with some humans, and then go to bed. Sometimes none of that. Sometimes it's just work, school day, sing, practice, rehearsal, practice, eat, sleep, repeat.
Yeah, I can imagine you had so much on your plate, especially since you're studying vocal performance and theater together. And so, yeah, you have to like manage your time really well. And so you answered this kind of before already in your previous answer, but how demanding would you say the work and practice is, like, usually?
Yeah, I would never, I mean, obviously there are moments, it changes. Sometimes there are times that are really busy and there's just everything happening at once and you have exams and things and it's just like, ah. But then there are other moments where, being honest, but then there are other moments where it's much more smooth sailing. But I also think it depends too on the kind of individual that you are. So like how like in terms of like how you're able to manage your time like you said, and then like organizational skills, and I guess just like really like your drive like to like when you have that half hour, like okay, like let's go in the practice room, or like you have that half hour, maybe instead of like I don't know, go sitting in the chair and napping, like having like studying your music for 15 minutes, you know. So um I think it's a combination, but I think while it can be very challenging in terms of like juggling a bunch of things, and sometimes you have to sacrifice some sleep. I think it all works out, and it's everyone will survive.
And that's a great answer. So, next question: how often do you perform, whether it be for, for a performance at college or for a separate gig, perhaps outside of college?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I would say through DePauw, through my university, I that's one thing that I love about the school is that there are constantly things happening. There are constantly concerts for the students. That's not even including the concerts that the school hosts with like their guest artist series, which is a whole other incredible thing. But for their students, they offer so many opportunities to be able to perform. So that's in operas, in plays, in musicals. Where they do one opera a year, one musical a year, and then they have an entire season of plays. I think it's like
Wow.
4 or 5 plays, and then yeah, and then they have musical theater scenes and opera scenes, and then along with choir concerts. But in addition to that, what I think is really incredible is that, or something that I learned in college is that a lot of times we have to go out and make our own opportunities, and that's why I love what you're doing here so much, because this is exactly like the kind of thing that like it's great, like because a lot of the opportunities sometimes they come from us in creating them ourselves, and that's something I learned in school. And a lot of what are some of this one initiative at our school emphasizes, and there was several vocalists that formed this ensemble that I got to be a part of, and we got to do a bunch of performances around in the community at local events, at senior centers. It was just really like there were so many opportunities that stem from that. And then with other gigs, there are church job gigs nearby that I was able to get involved in, and then also there's a senior center nearby campus, and so just for fun and for me, like just to be able to like give back and just also get some good practice in, because I get nervous when I perform. Get to I perform just on the weekends for fun for the seniors at a senior community living center on campus, so nearby campus. Um, so there are but the opportunities are just like a lot of them are just a matter of us realizing them, and so that's why I really like what you're doing here. But yes, I think our school has a lot of amazing opportunities, and that I've been lucky enough to be a part of, and then there are some that we've been able to harness and do ourselves. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great. Yeah, like being able to find your own opportunities and connecting with the community, and like that's a big part of what music is, of course.
yeah.
And the next question: how did you grow as an artist uh, during college?
Yeah, I think I would say even to change that question even to how I change as an artist and as a human, because I
Mhm.
think those two are like they're one and the same. And I
Yeah.
think being in school, I not only did I grow and I learned so much being in school and studying music, obviously, but in addition to that, um, learning so much about like myself and about the world and society, and because music doesn't live in a bubble,
Hmm.
and like you were saying, being in a community and how it's social, it's personal, and I think I think learning about like learning not just about music, but learning about a whole other thing, a whole bunch of other things, and getting to meet all kinds of people and people with different interests, and then coming back as an artist and having all this knowledge and these influences and these experiences and being able to apply them and see things from different lights and different angles. And I think it all informs not only like who we are as people and develops that, but informs the choices we make with our art. And so, yes, a lot, a lot of growth I felt.
Thanks for such a thoughtful answer. Yeah, it just shows how like music can touch so many parts of our life, and how interwoven it is with our lives and the community. And
Absolutely.
the next question you touched on in one of your other responses, but how do you balance your school and social life in college?
I would say that's also an individual thing. For me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I would say that, I mean, a lot of times, especially music school, a lot of your friends will be a lot of your peers, because and your fellow musicians, because you're in classes together a lot, and you're around each other just by the nature of what you study. Um, but so I guess in a lot of ways your school also be like schooling becomes your social life in some ways. But I would also say that not that it's like a balance, just like anything else. um it's a matter of finding the rhythm that's right for you. And I think that varies for everyone. For me, I know my stance on it is that I'm there to study first and foremost. And I think while there's always time to socialize, whether that's just like when you're back at where you live, whether that's a dorm or an apartment that you're sharing with people, or just in the music buildings, I think there is time for that, but it's a balance, just like anything else. And for me, it's just that like I'm there to study, so it's a matter of like what you're prioritizing. And there'll always be room for it. Like it's okay. Like people have varying degrees to what they need and what they want. But for me, it's definitely my schooling comes first. But I've still had made plenty of friends and had a wonderful time at school. So
Yeah, great answer.
Thank you, Amalia, for participating in this video and for providing us with such excellent answers. And thank you, viewers, for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for part 2 of this interview within a few days. Bye!